Welcome to Voiced. Today's post is from subreddit Tifu by Kamalu, and it is about a harrowing experience involving a 9-year-old girl who left her bathroom in an uncontrollable state, prompting a desperate struggle to prevent a biohazard disaster. Not today, but I saw a story recently that reminded me of this one, and my sister suggested I post it here. This happened 2 years ago, so I'll do my best to recount everything as it happened. Some background. I was still living at home at this point. My younger brother, I'll call him Matt, 15 meters at the time, has been taking piano lessons since he was little, and he got good enough to pick up teaching as a way to make some spending money. His students consisted of kids from our neighborhood, usually around 5 to 12 years old. This happened while our parents were out of town on a trip. The only ones home at the time were me, 20-year-old female, my sister, Morgan, 22F, my best friend, Sarah, 21F, and Matt. Matt was teaching some kids who lived down the road from us. It was a group of 3 siblings, 5M, 7M, and 9F, and the way he'd do their lessons was that he'd teach one at a time while the other 2 hung out and played with toys. At one point, 9F asks if she can use the bathroom. We have 3, 2 on the upper level and 1 downstairs, and she chooses the one downstairs. This is after she's already had her portion of the lesson, and Matt is finishing up with the last kid. About 15 minutes later, their mom shows up to pick them up, and they leave. I notice that 9F is moving a little quicker than usual, but obviously, I don't think anything of it. Some time passes, and I go downstairs to go to the bathroom. This bathroom is the type with a separate little room where the toilet is, so that people can still brush their teeth and stuff if someone is using the bathroom, and when I walk in, the door is closed. That's kind of weird, but not alarming. I open the door and lift up the lid, and immediately I'm hit with the most ungodly stench I've ever encountered. I have a strong stomach, but I was close to gagging. This toilet is mega clogged. The water is close to the top of the bowl, and this is not a few turds lurking by the drain with mostly clear water. I cannot see where water ends and poop begins. I knew immediately that this was not the work of a family member. No one I knew was capable of this. This was an unfamiliar and malignant turd that this girl had dropped in my home. I'm trying to work past my revulsion to deal with this in a quick and sanitary manner. The plunger, right next to the toilet, I might add, hadn't been used, so I had hoped that it would be as simple as a few quick rounds of plunging to get everything down. I gave it a try, hoping the murky water wouldn't impede my progress, and to my utter horror, the water rose higher. Not only that, it wasn't draining whatsoever, even when I left it for several minutes in hopes that the level would go down enough for me to give it another try. The situation was dire. The smell was so thick that if I lit a match, I would have emerged with singed eyebrows. The water was just on the precipice of overflowing, and if this particular water escaped the toilet, we would have had no choice but to permanently seal off the bathroom as a biohazard. There was no room for error here. I had to call in reinforcements. I steeled myself and went upstairs to find Morgan and Sarah, if not for help, at least for moral support. As calmly as I could, I let them know about our predicament and requested that they follow me to help assess the situation. As expected, they were horrified. It was a grim sight, and once again, the water level had not gone down whatsoever in the time I was gone. Somberly, we closed the door and convened in the living room, strategizing what could be done. Using all the resources available to us, Google, we weighed our options. More plunging with the water as high as it was would only spell disaster. The water displaced by the plunger alone would be enough to send it over the edge. Similarly, pouring in a bucket of water to force a manual flush was out of the question. Any science fair-esque combination of baking soda and vinegar could only make the situation worse. After all was said and done, we were left with one option: lower the water level any way we could, and then try again with the plunger. I knew that whatever I used to remove that heinous poop water would be biohazard material by the time I was done with it, so I settled on something we wouldn't miss: the dozens of empty cottage cheese containers my sweet mother, despite having access to more than enough Tupperware to store all the leftovers we could dream of, had saved over the years. The cottage cheese containers also had the benefit of coming with equally disposable lids, so they were definitely the best option we had in lieu of medical-grade waste disposal equipment. I elected to use one extra unlucky container to scoop the water into another waiting receptacle, which I would lid, place on the bathroom counter covered in plastic grocery bags, and then, once I had a couple I could take at once, carry, with the utmost care, upstairs to the nearest unclogged toilet and dispose of. Having the strongest stomach out of all of us, I was drafted for the task, and I suited up. A leftover N95 mask from the height of the COVID pandemic, several layers of nitrile gloves, and clothes I was willing to part with if things went south. Even if they didn't, I was going to be throwing them out anyway. The memories attached to them couldn't be washed out with all the OxyClean in the world. Gathering my wits, I went to work. It was utterly unholy. I gagged more times than I could count, and it took more trips than you could possibly imagine. Each container I removed revealed water more disgusting than the last batch as I ventured closer and closer to the apex of clog. Morgan and Sarah gagged along with me, flushing as I poured each disgusting container into the loving embrace of the upstairs toilet. Finally, I figured that the water level was low enough to give it another try. Dread descended upon me as the water level rose once more, filling to toilet bowl with horrors anew. Like Sisyphus eternally pushing his boulder up the hill, I returned to my endless task, climbing the stairs with my little containers of evil. Seasons changed outside the window, pages blew off the calendar, and still I trudged. At first, I seethed at the girl who had subjected me to this torment, blissfully ignorant of the horrors I was experiencing at her hand. Then, I felt only pity, because clearly, whatever was going on inside of her intestines must have been more horrifying than I could imagine. Once more, the water level lowered, and I, beaten down, reduced to a shadow of my former self, raised the plunger again. I plunged with all my might, using muscles I have not used before or since. The clouds parted, the world regained color as the toilet let out a pathetic gurgle, and the water finally drained. I could have dropped to my knees on that cold tile floor. I was so happy. I gave it another good plunge and watched the water finally run clear. The bowl refilling and my nightmare ending. I quadruple bagged the sullied containers and threw them in the dumpster, just as my parents pulled into the driveway. They saw the state of me and asked what had happened. Sweating, nearly trembling, and ready for a year-long shower, I said the words that had been running through my head for the entire hour-long ordeal: a crap and run. Update to answer some FAQs. Did I use a real plunger or a sink plunger? A real plunger. I grew up with those massive accordion-looking plungers in every bathroom. I guess my parents were passionate about proper plunging etiquette, knowingly or unknowingly. Do we have a poop knife? No. Unfortunately, we do not have a poop knife, nor do we have a poop stick or a poop coat hanger. But I'm very impressed with the arsenal of tools that are apparently available to me should I need them. Did she ever return for another piano lesson? Not only did she return, I asked Matt, and he still teaches her to this day. That being said, I haven't seen her since. I moved out pretty soon after that, and although I visit my family frequently, she has not been present at Sunday dinner. But I wish her well and pray that her family has a hearty septic system and a whole lot of Febreze. Well, folks, if that story doesn't keep you on the edge of your seat, I don't know what will. It's a real testament to the challenges of unexpected guest bathroom emergencies. Who knew a simple, "Can I use your bathroom?" could lead to such a wild adventure? I'm glad the moral support and that N95 mask got our storyteller through the ordeal. And can we just take a moment to appreciate the true heroism of diving into the grossest job ever? I have to say, I might just add poop knife to my next shopping list, just in case. Thoughts on how you would tackle this messy situation? Have you ever had a bathroom crisis of epic proportions? Drop your stories and thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear them. Thank you for listening to today's episode of Voiced. If you enjoyed daily high-quality stories, please like and subscribe to show your support.